Woo! It's the boy, Bubba, let's coming through. Hella clutch, flawless, can't be touched. It's your boy, Bubba, let's. Yeah, I need that hot take. I need the truth and everything that is not fake. So tell me who's.
Welcome back, Bubba Bunch, to another edition of the Bubba Sports Podcast, episode 196, and we are closing in on 200 episodes, and we are even closer to a very Merry Christmas.
I love Christmas. My favorite holiday.
We are filming this on Christmas Eve, so 2 days before Christmas, and then we're gonna have another episode with Kevin that we're gonna do on the best gifts of in sports or just in the NFL. We haven't really figured that out yet, but we'll do that for Christmas Day, which will be really nice. And so this time around though, we're just gonna make it pretty simple in the NFL, kind of like a winners and losers, but of the whole season as we go into week 16 of the NFL. And we're going to do our biggest surprises, biggest disappointments of the season. And we've narrowed it down to 3. We could do more, but we'll save ourselves some time because we are an efficient podcast.
Yes. We have made an agreement for this one specifically that it is going to be efficient, and it will. We will be breaking an hour this episode. We will.
I forgot to put the stopwatch on, so good start. But
no, we're good. We're good. We know what time it is.
So let's get it started on this beautiful Christmas Eve. Kevin, I'll let you go first. Who is your first big surprise in the NFL this season?
You doll. You're a doll. But you know what? Thank you. And I'll go first with this one because in the offseason, I was not too, I guess you could say the word is confident about this hire. I was very judgmental. I did not think that this was a good hire at all. I was very confused on why out of everybody in the league they chose him. I was very, very iffy about Kevin Stefanski coming to the Browns. I was so iffy, and I remember in a podcast we made in the offseason, kind of talking about the draft, and I went a little bit in about him, and I didn't really like it. I wasn't really a fan. I kind of thought like, who? Why him? What are his credentials? But I have to stand here. I stand corrected big time because did I ever think the Browns would be 10-4 and in a position to win the AFC North?
Real G's move in silence like lasagna. So,
and you know what? You know what's crazy too is that Baker's playing some pretty damn good football.
Hey,
he's playing some pretty damn good football, and who
would have thunk it?
Who would have thunk it, man? Like seriously, like I said, I just wasn't convinced when I saw that hire. I was like, wow, okay. There are a bunch of other well-known names out there that have had their chance at coaching. They have experience, but when I saw Kevin Stefanski's name, I was like, why? What did they see in him? Like his credentials, he wasn't a flashy name. His credentials weren't flashy, but I mean. I guess he was kind of like, all right, I'm gonna let my work speak for itself. And let me tell you what, 10-4 in a position to win the division, his offense just looks, there's been some games where like Baker looks like he's kind of off, the offense looks off, but recently these last couple like 3-4 games, his offense has been on fire. Baker's been looking good. He's been looking sharp. Jarvis Landry has had like a little revival to a certain extent in his career. Rashard Higgins is looking like a solid number 2. I mean, do we even have to say anything about Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, the dynamic duo, boom and zoom? I mean, it's looking great. And would I ever, to this day, if you would have told me that the Browns would be 10-4 on that day where I sat here and I scrutinized this hire, I would have called you an idiot. I would have said you were wrong. Get out of my face. But I have to stand corrected, and I have to say that I am honestly very, very genuinely surprised how good this has worked out for the Browns. Because, man, I don't think anybody wants to rethink those Freddie Kitchens
Oh, we
games.
do not want to think about that.
Oh my God. Baker looked so horrific with Freddie Kitchens last year. Their offense looked so bad because their offense is basically the same as last year. They had Nick Chubb, they had OBJ, they had Jarvis, they had David Njoku. It was basically the same offense, but now that just shows that coaching is a big part of what can transcend a team. And man, so Kevin Stefanski deserves a lot of respect. Now, let's see what happens these last two games. Let's see if they can make it to the playoffs. Let's see if they'll win the division. But either way, at least till this point right now, my first surprise, and it is well deserved, and like I said, I stand corrected, but Kevin Stefanski and the Browns are my first surprise of the 2020 season, hands down.
I had them as one of my surprises as well, but for different reasons. Now, I'm going to disagree with you on the fact that the hire itself was a shocker.
You were high on the high. I remember.
I did like the hire because really when you look at what Kevin Stefanski did in Minnesota with that offense, very explosive, very built on the running game with Dalvin Cook, it was like, well, I'm just going to build that formula, take it to Cleveland, and do it with Nick Chubb and then alongside Kareem Hunt. But what was important to make that work was the offensive line and that edge protection for Baker. It was a lot of it goes to Jedrick Wills being drafted in this year's draft, who I thought was the best offensive lineman coming out of that draft class. And honestly, I think that the Odell injury actually was the best thing that happened to this offense because you no longer have that effect of like we have to force the ball to Odell in order for him to be happy and not to be super diva or emotional on the sideline. But I thought the hire was going to be anything better than Freddie Kitchens. That's the marker. Like, that's all you got to do. I think the worry about me with Kevin Stefanski was just the aura of Cleveland. Like, something's bound to go wrong. So what's going to go wrong for the Cleveland Browns this year? Yeah. And Odell, you could say, is that issue. And maybe those times where Baker was like, maybe he's just not the guy anymore. But they've bounced back from that and answered that with Kevin Stefanski being very disciplined and just being a fresh atmosphere to this entire culture of the Cleveland Browns. And I've said it all year long. I think this defense is better than what people think. And I think that even though they're not perfect, they do better than the average defense around the league. And it's led by Myles Garrett. So they're going to be better next year when a lot of those guys come back from injury, including Grant Delpit. But in just year one, that's surprising for them to be one game back of the Steelers in that AFC North and definitely going to get a wild card, bearing any collapse. But they're going to make the playoffs. And are we sure that they're going to be a threat in that playoffs? Maybe not. But we also didn't think the Titans were going to be that big of a threat going in. But they went in hot. And Cleveland has that same type of hotness to them of like they're led by the running game, and as long as their quarterback cannot make bad decisions, their defense will do the work. They can surprise someone.
Yeah, and one thing that leads to my I guess stigma around the whole hire back then was how I felt about Minnesota. I've never liked Minnesota. I've never liked Kirk Cousins. I never liked the inconsistency surrounding the Minnesota Vikings offense last season. So that's why I had my doubts about Kevin Stefanski coming in. But, leading to your point where you said that, he had an explosive mindset to him that ended up working here because he just made it work with the tools that he had. And, to a certain extent, if you want to make the argument that, he maybe had more in Minnesota because he had both Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs, and he had Dalvin Cook, and he had Kyle Rudolph, you can make the argument that's fine. But there were moments last season where Minnesota just looked dull. Yeah, they made the playoffs, but there was a stretch in that season where they just looked dull and they did not look good at all. And that is what I was worried about leading into Cleveland. But man, I cannot say anything now because I was wrong. So it's a very pleasant surprise, I guess, especially for an organization like the Browns that have been cursed for decades, man. Decades.
Yeah, they They needed someone to just go in there and say, this is how we're going to do things. Take it or leave it. If you're not down with this, get out. But we're tired of it. We're tired of being the laughingstock. And even though we may not win a Super Bowl, I think this is a win no matter what happens for the Cleveland Browns this year.
Oh, yeah.
They get routed in the first round, you made it. You win.
It's a step in the right direction. And like you said earlier, with these guys coming back next season, if the formula stays the same, the sky's the limit for this team. And finally, the people of Cleveland can rejoice for once. Jesus Christ.
And I'm all for it because I love watching that team play. I think there's so many different elements to that team that I'm like, I like this group. And I'm excited to see what the future holds. So in the case that that's my first surprise, I'll use my backup already.
Okay, go for it.
The Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, they're my surprise pick because of many different reasons. Of course, we can talk about the surprise of them going undefeated for 11 straight weeks and having the best run that Mike Tomlin's ever had as the Pittsburgh Steelers coach.
Yeah, I don't think anybody saw that coming at all. At all.
I mean, I was thinking they were going to be bums. I really thought that Big Ben coming back was going to be the worst thing for them. I was wrong for 11 weeks. And I thought they were just going to be there. Like, I thought the Ravens were going to be way better than they are. And I thought the Browns were going to do something, but I didn't know they were going to be to this level. And even though the Steelers have the wins over the Browns this year, they're just two completely different teams that we're looking at for the Steelers from then to now. And that's why they're a big surprise right now, is that going from 11-0 and having one of the best offenses in football with every weapon possible at every position. And Big Ben
doing his job too.
Like defense, like you were intimidated because of the physicality of that defense from their linebackers and from, of course, TJ Watt. But you're scared to throw the ball down the field because you're not going to have enough time with that defensive front. And if you do, you're throwing to Joe Hayden and Minkah Fitzpatrick. I'm terrified. And a little of that feeling is gone now. Their defense is still good even throughout the injuries. But this offense went from 100 to 0 real quick because how do we go from Chase Claypool that had 10 touchdowns in his first 10 games in the NFL, which is the first time in history as a rookie wide receiver to ever do that. I've not seen him in the end zone ever since, I feel like.
You haven't seen him even catch a ball a lot in games recently.
And you can say that for every single one of those guys on the receiving core in the tight end group because they're dropping balls left and right. They lead the league in drops the last few weeks. Yeah. Deontay Johnson cannot catch the ball. Juju Smith-Schuster is making more TikToks than yards per game. And he had the comment today where he's like, for the betterment of my team, I'm going to stop dancing on local. I'm like, that should just be a given. That shouldn't be something we talk about.
Yeah.
And then Big Ben, it feels like his arm's noodle now. I don't know what can save this team that is 50 over half the time. And I don't know when this trend started, but over half the time now they go 3 and out on offense.
Yeah. I was very surprised. ESPN pulled out some insane stat, like they always do. I don't know if you saw it, but the Pittsburgh Steelers had not gone for like 6 3 and outs in a game to start like a game in general since like 1986. I was like,
and this is the worst time to do it because it's so critical that your offense gets it going really quickly. But in that first quarter against the Bengals of all teams, you have 5 times that you get the ball, 5 possessions, and you go 3 and out. And I think all of them. I don't think they recorded a first down in the first quarter.
No, they didn't. No, they didn't.
And then you lose the Bengals, who you dance on their logo pregame. And then, like, you're on a 3-game losing streak. No one took you serious even when you're on that winning streak because you're barely beating these teams. And when you're not beating these teams, you're losing to the worst teams in the NFL.
Yeah.
So how can we take you serious after you're making all these like jokes and all these videos of like you guys being undefeated, like who's going to stop us now, losing, what is even that? Like Chase Claypool said that on a tweet. Well, it's like all you're doing is losing now, and you're losing terribly. So if you face the Bills in round 1, if you're facing, I don't know, let's say the Miami Dolphins, well, I'm taking money on every single team except for you.
Yeah, like there's a very good chance that if the Steelers continue playing like this, they're an easy out. Easy round one out.
And it's terrible because of how glorified this offense was for its weapons and for the veteranship that it had. And now it's just kind of like, I wouldn't say it's disappointing, like at that point, because I'm genuinely surprised at the fact that they've gone from the highest of highs and they peaked in week 11. They peaked at week 11, and now they are just on a downward spiral to where your biggest thing is kind of the same way that we've seen like Antonio Brown when he was with the Steelers. Like, doesn't it feel that way? Like Juju is now Antonio Brown, and they're just trying to figure out like themselves, but they're just beating each other up. Like they're the reason they're losing football games. It has nothing to do with the other teams. And that's just what the Steelers have ever been since Mike Tomlin took over.
And what sucks is that, Mike Tomlin, we have immense respect for Mike Tomlin on this podcast. We both love Mike Tomlin to death. And it sucks that it looks like once he solves a problem, another one comes up right away. And it sucks because he doesn't deserve that. He's such a good head coach, and all he has to deal with is just a bunch of just unnecessary issues.
But I do think he's a part of the problem. And I don't think he is the reason why they're losing games and why they'll never win a Super Bowl from what it looks like. Because Big Ben may play another year or two, who knows, but I don't think that's the best move for them. It's just like, yeah, Mike Tomlin's a player coach, and he is very strict, but he also is just loved by those guys in the locker room. I just feel like some things they can get away with because it's Mike Tomlin that many other coaches probably wouldn't allow. And sometimes that's good, sometimes it's bad. But then there's just the culture of like we're talented, we're a really good group. So what's wrong? Like, what is missing in this piece? Because I'm looking at this team and I've said it, they have every ingredient to be a Super Bowl winning team, but something's just not right. And I don't think anything will ever be right with Mike Tomlin. Yeah.
Well, see it this way: they got 2 more weeks to figure it out. Because if they don't, later. Easy out.
Easy out. I've been off it for a while. I don't think there's saving this team. Not with how a lot of these AFC teams are going in hot. Titans, Browns, Miami. Like, they're getting these good wins in significant fashion.
Buffalo looks like they could beat the Chiefs.
No, God, no. Anybody who faces the Bills first round, God help you. God help you. Because that is better than what the Titans were going into the playoffs last year. They were hot. I don't even know what to explain what the Bills are this year. Fuego.
Well, football gods, let's see what you'll give us with these Steelers. Speaking of football gods, because this is the only way I could describe this immense turnaround, in my opinion. When Phillip Rivers got signed to the Colts, you had your opinion. We all know how you feel about Phillip Rivers, right? I was like, oh, okay. Like, let's see. That's what I said. I said, let's see what happened. The offense is nothing huge to talk about, right? Okay, yeah, they're getting the job done. They're scoring points. They're moving the ball. Jonathan Taylor looks like the second coming of freaking Roger Craig sometimes. But then he has his moments. And then, Nyheim Hines has absolutely popped off out of nowhere this season. Phillip Rivers looks like he's still, just doing what he's doing. He's an above average game manager, in my opinion. That's how I see Phillip Rivers. But you don't have these number 1 wide receivers in Indianapolis. You have these receivers that do their job. So, the offense, okay, great. You guys are doing your job. But can we talk about that defense? We're talking about an Indianapolis defense that last year averaged almost 30 points per game given up. 30 points. Hey, if you let a team score 30 points per game, are you going to win?
I mean, last year you really couldn't say that. This year you could probably get away with giving up 30 points, but it's not ideal.
In general football talk, usually the answer is no to that question.
Correct.
So, they've been kind of a little soft lately, but still, How you go from one of the absolute worst defenses in the league to just being top notch? You are the number one defense in the league. You are averaging more turnovers, point differential. It's crazy. It's insane. The complete turnaround was mind boggling. And Xavier Rhodes, as an example.
Yeah.
Absolute bum last 3 seasons in Minnesota. But then he comes to Indianapolis, he's not an elite shutdown corner again, but he's having a pretty damn good season. He's turned it around. And also, at least one of my favorite moves from this offseason, DeForest Buckner to the Colts. Oh my Lord, what a move. I loved it. And the fact that he was snubbed, embarrassing for the league. He should be in the Pro Bowl, but whatever, that's a different conversation. DeForest Buckner, Xavier Rhodes, and my personal favorite, because this guy has had a very, very troubled beginning to his career. Malik Hooker is finally looking like the Malik Hooker that we've, expected out of him when he first got drafted. This defensive group from these Colts are the biggest surprise for me out of this team in general, because hey, guess what? They're 10-4 as well. Did you ever think the Indianapolis Colts from last year would be 10-4 right now? Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I thought they were going to be better than last year, and that's tough to say because I did like Jacoby Brissett as their quarterback. I think he gave them opportunities to win football games, and sometimes he did it, sometimes he didn't. So it's like, yeah, I'd prefer Jacoby Brissett over Phillip Rivers. That's just my opinion, but I understand the move of like wanting to win now. I think Frank Reich is an amazing coach that's not talked about enough in this league.
Frank Reich is so underrated. So underrated.
He fits the mold of a head coach. Like, he fits it so well. And then when he got the opportunity from leaving Philadelphia to Indianapolis, it's like, oh, okay, I do want to see what goes on here. And it's taken a little bit, and it took a terrible early retirement from Andrew Luck to really get it going for Indianapolis. But I was listening to 105.3 The Fan, and they were like, the Colts are just boring. Like, they're just boring to watch because they just play good football, but it's not flashy football.
Yeah.
It's just good football. And I'm like, you know what? That reminds me a lot of the Eagles team that won the Super Bowl. It's like, they just play good football. I hate the Eagles, but I appreciate good football. They played really good defense, and if their quarterback does not screw up, well, then you go. Like, you just give the ball to Jonathan Taylor, you do a play action to T.Y. Hilton or Michael Pittman Jr. It's like, you get the job done.
You do an RPO to Nyheim Hines because that always works for some reason. Always.
Yeah. So I'm genuinely surprised at how good they are playing, but I'm happy for them. Like, I think Frank Reich deserves to have this type of success. I don't think they're going to be a threat in the playoffs. In my opinion, I think if they go against the Tennessee Titans again, I think they lose. But I think that at the end of the day, this is a good team, and I think Phillip Rivers loses them the season because it's Phillip Rivers. You can't blame anybody but Phillip Rivers no matter what happens.
There's the Phillip Rivers slander. He had to put it in somewhere.
I had to because it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Well, we'll end it on this note. The Indianapolis Colts have been a very pleasant surprise this season.
Nice word. I like that.
There you go. Pleasant surprise.
Another pleasant surprise is a man that I ridiculed coming out of the draft. And I will say, on this podcast right now, looking at the camera, I was wrong.
She is looking at the camera. Wow.
I was wrong about Josh Allen. Let's look at the stats, shall we? Because the stats don't lie. 2019, 16 games, a 58.8 completion percentage. This time, in 2020, on 14 games, so it's probably not going to change a lot for the completion percentage, is up by 10 points at 68.7. He's already blown past his passing yards from last season, even though he had more games already. He went from 3,089 to 4,000. Nice clean look for a 4,000 on the stat sheet.
Yes.
20 passing touchdowns to 30 passing touchdowns. 9 rushing touchdowns last year, 8 already this year in rushing. And the most important stat is the passer rating, 85.3 last year, 104.2 this year.
It's so good.
If you want to watch good quarterback play, you watch the game against the Seattle Seahawks and you say, against a bad defense, this is what a good quarterback should do. You put up 44 on them.
Now, see, as much as I love Josh Allen, and I've always believed in Josh Allen, I've always said he just needed the time to develop. Like we talked about yesterday, Sean McDermott deserves a lot of respect for developing Josh Allen.
Yes. And that's the best part about this surprise, is that it's not just putting up the stats like a Jameis Winston instance, right? It's like you can throw 30 touchdowns, but you're also one of the worst quarterbacks I've ever seen. It's like, no, this is actual improvement year by year, because we can't really count the 2018 year. It's like a shit show for the Buffalo Bills. They had Nathan Peterman as their quarterback at some point, and Matt Barkley made a start. Dear God, let's just not talk about it. So let's start from 2019, and ever since then, have we seen him improve on the things that we did not like in college? Look at Wyoming; he was the worst deep passer in the league, or in college football, really. Like, he just did not know how to throw past 20 yards. And in this season, and even when he was in the league in his first couple of years, it was something he needed to work on. And in this season, I have seen nothing but good progress out of that one particular thing. It's been Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott, and Josh Allen as the 3 best deep passers in the league right now. You could put Aaron Rodgers in there, yeah. But as far as, improved guys, Dak Prescott and Josh Allen have really improved on that. But for me, it's the accuracy, deep, and the completion percentage, which have all improved tremendously this season. He is taking Buffalo by storm. And I'm feeling like I never got to see Jim Kelly play. But if I did, I feel like it would feel like this.
Jim Kelly was so good.
He takes it. He puts the whole city on his back. And he says, I'm going to win you the football game. We may only rush for 19 yards, but I'm going to throw it for 400 yards plus, because that's what I have to do. That's a dangerous game to play. But as far as right now goes, there's only small and very minimal instances to where it didn't work out in the favor of Josh Allen. But right now, Buffalo is riding high. And a lot of it has to do with Josh Allen and his play. Not just going from a game manager, but being a rising star at his position. And I'm genuinely surprised that it's come this far already.
I always believed in you, Josh.
I was wrong about Josh Allen. I am ready to say he is a great quarterback for years to come. And if we're starting a franchise and they said, you'll get Josh Allen over a guy in the draft, I'm like, you know what? Give me Josh Allen all day, every day. Because, yes, there's going to be some moments where he still makes those mistakes, which he still does. But every quarterback does that. So I was wrong about Josh Allen.
I like this.
Got to keep myself humble, you know?
There you go. I love this. You know, self-improvement. There we go. All right. Now we're going to go on a little bit of a negative surprise. So, remember in the beginning of the season when the Tampa Bay Bucks were pulling the cards of the Golden State Warriors, signing literally every single superstar super team? Yeah, what happened?
That is not a good analogy. There was one instance to where Golden State signed a free agent.
What, Kevin Durant?
Yeah. Everything else was homegrown.
Okay, fair enough then. I don't watch basketball as a disclaimer, but to be quite honest with you, I thought Klay Thompson was another
No.
free agent signing.
They drafted him.
Oh, okay, never mind. Bad analogy. See,
Let me give you a good analogy.
Please, fix my analogy because I don't watch basketball.
Miami Heat when LeBron went there.
Okay.
And maybe the Lakers, because the Lakers can just sign anybody.
Okay, fine. The Tampa Bay Bucks pulled the Lakers card. There, my analogy's fixed. But yeah, you get my point, basically.
Yeah.
What happened? Why are you guys 9-5? I've said it multiple times on this podcast. I hate watching the Bucks. I hate watching these damn Bucks because
I think Bruce Arians hates watching the Bucks too.
Yeah, man. Dude, there's some games where these Bucks look incredible. They are riding high. They're going to the Super Bowl. You know, they go and they shut down Aaron Rodgers to just 10 points. And then 4 weeks later, they get obliterated by the Saints on Thanksgiving. How? How does that happen? Please tell me. There's no way. I don't get it. It's an on and off thing every single week for these Bucks. Every single week. Did they win last week? Yeah, they won last week against the Falcons. But you were down 17-0 to a team that blows games, which they did again. But still, how?
You're not going to get that every week to where you go down 17-0 and then make a comeback. You're not going to do that in the playoffs.
I don't get it though, because look, I don't want to hear the argument of, oh, well, Tom Brady's learning the system. No, shut up. You're dumb. I feel like if you're a 20-year veteran that is you literally have every single smart in football. You have the smarts. Going to another system is just learning the plays. Now, you have Tom Brady, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, OJ Howard before injury, Cameron Brate. You also have Rojo. You have Leonard Fournette. You have Shaq Barrett, Levante David. Come on. Do I have to keep going? I mean, I'm sorry. Ndamukong Suh as well. You have all these players and you're 9-5? Look, I was not completely high on the Bucks going into the season. And you remember this because you roasted me multiple times for saying it. But did I expect them to be this inconsistent? No. I said on this podcast they would be at least maybe like 11-5, 10-6. They still have the possibility to do it. But dude.
No, it's a bad 10-6, you know?
It's one of the most inconsistent 10-6, 11-5s I've ever seen in football. I've ever seen. And I just don't get it because they literally have firepower in every single position. My friend is a Bucks fan and he feels the exact same way I do. And I always tell him like, dude, you guys have everything. Literally, you have everything. Yeah. What's going on? And even he's like, dude, I don't know. And you know, we both here love Bruce Arians. We have immense respect for him. Why? Why is this happening?
Well, it's a common trend. It's a common trend for Bruce Arians to put in a new system for a quarterback, even if it is an elite quarterback to a lot of people, because there's no compromise, you know? Bruce Arians at some point coached Andrew Luck, Carson Palmer. Love Carson Palmer. And now Tom Brady. And if you look at those stats in the first year that they were under that system with Bruce Arians, it was very similar to what Tom Brady is now, just inflated because of the amount of offense that is now in the NFL. But those guys struggled as well. They have to learn everything after the snap. Bruce Arians does not like to give you coverage looks or motion in order to dissect the defense. He wants you to do everything after the snap, which, and a lot of people, a lot of coordinators, and personally in my opinion, is not the best way to go about it. Like, if you are a motion-based team pre-snap, like, you are going to have the advantage, and you want the defense to play your game. You don't want to do it the other way around. You're playing the defense's game, and you're trying to maneuver from that. And yes, I get it. That's Bruce Arians' way. But you got to have some compromise. It's also on Tom Brady. Like, Tom Brady's been around the league way too long, and he said it multiple times. He's like, I know everything about football. Like, I know every coverage possible because I've seen it all. So you should know by now where those holes are. And unless you're going against elite defense, and even then, you've had multiple occasions to where you go against elite defenses and you do well. So what's the excuse? You can't tell me that you have so much inconsistent play, and you're only 9-5. And when we're looking at it, because I think that the Bucs are a disappointment. Their only impressive win is against the Green Bay Packers, and that was really the Green Bay Packers saying, "Okay, well, hold up, we're not perfect, so let's just go back to the fundamentals." But their losses come to the Saints twice, so they're not winning the division. They lost to the Chiefs and they lost to the Rams. All their wins come against the Eagles, not the Eagles, the Panthers, against the Giants. Like, it's teams
the slumping Vikings.
Like, what are you going to do when you get to the playoffs and you've lost to every team that you would see in the playoffs, and you beat every team that won't be there? It's like, and you're only beating them by a small amount. Like, you almost lost to Daniel Jones on Monday Night Football. That's how bad it was. And credit to the New York Giants defense, because that was really a good coming out party for them. But it's still the Giants. Like, you shouldn't be losing when you have this amount of talent. So how do we go from Super Bowl contenders out of the NFC? Because yes, the Saints and the Packers are going to be good, but Bucs have every weapon possible, and there's no excuse.
They have the firepower, and they've just been duds every week in, week out, and it's so weird. So yeah, I'm very, very surprised of how inconsistent this Bucs team, and they round out my surprises. So,
well, I will always talk about how great the draft class for the wide receivers was this year, but I don't even think I was aware of how good they would be. And looking back at it, this is historic as far as how good these wide receivers are. I looked it up, and it's actually a record of the largest amount of wide receivers taken in the first 2 rounds of the NFL draft at 13. That is the most in NFL history.
Wow.
And in those first 2 rounds, first round, Henry Ruggs. Ooh, we still got to figure out, but there's a lot of potential there.
Not being used properly,
Jerry Jeudy, who doesn't have a quarterback.
Unfortunate circumstance,
but still one of the best route runners in football. CeeDee Lamb. We like CeeDee Lamb.
I'll get to him later, but yes.
Oh, I don't like that. Jalen Reagor, we'll see, but a lot of potential. Brandon Ayuk, who is perfect for San Francisco.
Stud. Yes.
Justin Jefferson.
Stud. Baller.
Rookie of the year. Personally, if you ask me right now, Rookie of the year.
Oh, yeah.
Second round, T. Higgins.
Stud.
Michael Pittman Jr., who has had some really good games this season with the Colts. And if we're talking about years past T.Y. Hilton, as far as what's the future like in Indianapolis, it's Michael Pittman Jr.
He has potential, big potential.
Shenault out of Jacksonville, who just always fits like the mold of, like, even if you are in Jacksonville, even if there's no quarterback, you want to put him on your fantasy team.
Bright spots. He's had bright games, yeah.
KJ Hamler, who next year is going to have a coming out party, guaranteed.
Unfortunate circumstance again.
Denzel Mims, we'll see what happens with the Jets. Van Jefferson with the Rams, who I think fits that system really well. Chase Claypool, even though we just bashed on him, is a great wide receiver. And let's just get deeper into the rounds. 5th round, Darnell Mooney. We're loving some Mooney right now.
We praised him yesterday.
Yeah. 6th round, Quez Watkins. He's getting a few touchdowns here and there with the Philadelphia Eagles. I think Jalen Hurts is going to really like him. And then Donovan Peoples-Jones from the Cleveland Browns in the 6th round.
He's been popping off lately.
The greatest name in all of football, I think, in right now, next to Kiki QT, who's also a wide receiver. But there are so many wide receivers picked every year, but I don't think we've ever seen this amount of talent already prosper in their first year. And look, man, I think the sky's the limit for a lot of these guys. Like, Justin Jefferson just looks like Randy Moss. CeeDee Lamb is getting 88, that number 88, and I'm like, oh, he could be better than Des Bryant.
Oh, CD deserves the 88 for sure.
I was skeptical about him getting 88, but the way he's playing with bums at quarterback, he's getting the job done. and he's making immaculate catches like he did against Minnesota. Like I'm just questioning how it worked, how he twisted his body that way. He's had mistakes. Every wide receiver is going to have mistakes. Every rookie is going to have mistakes. But he has that Minnesota touchdown. He gets the kickoff return on an onside kick. He took it to seal the game against San Francisco. It's like you can't help but be excited about a young group of guys coming out of college and just balling out.
I agree. I think this core has a lot of good years to come. And a lot of these guys are, on teams that they just need that extra, talent, extra push. But, once they're, used right, like Henry Ruggs, once Jerry Jeudy has a good quarterback, good system around KJ Hamler, Denzel Mims, Jalen Reagor might pop off now that Jalen Hurts is in. So, I think this, like you said, the sky's the limit, and in the future years to come, I think next year, at the beginning of the season, next year when everybody's back, we might be able to see what these guys are made of because the full team is ready to go.
Well, then we're only adding more next season with Jamar Chase and D. Smith out of Alabama.
Jamar Chase is so good. He's so good.
He's not even playing this year, and he's gonna go top 10. Like that, he's just so that good. But wide receivers are just, if you're a fantasy owner, if you just play fantasy, like you just have so many options at this point.
Oh yeah, for sure, yeah. Big time.
So let's get disappointed. Like my marriage.
This one hurts me. This one hurts me big time. And I think you already know what I'm gonna say. I was so high on these Denver Broncos this year. I was so high on these Broncos, dude. I honestly thought these Broncos had the capability to go to the playoffs, have such a good season. Let me just read you this real quick, right? Before the season even starts, okay? Oh God. Von Miller, ankle injury, out for season. We talk about these players that have the ability to affect the whole entire game just single-handedly. Von Miller's on that list.
Of course.
And Bradley Chubb is a stud. He is an absolute stud. But he is not Von Miller. He's not. So Von Miller's out. Courtland Sutton last year proved that he has the capability to be a number 1 and top wide receiver in the league. And he tears his ACL. Oh,
that one hurt.
God. He was poised to just pop off this year. But
loved him in fantasy. I was so excited to get him. So excited.
I drafted him. I drafted Courtland Sutton this year. Damn, man, that sucks. Next one, another player on the defense that, he's not Von Miller elite, but this guy is a stud, and he makes big-time plays. Jarrell Casey. He fell down, and man, did they need him. They needed him big. And the last one that hurt big time because, he came over on a trade, and everybody was excited about him. And then he goes and gets suspended, A.J. Bouye. This team had so many parts, man. They had so many parts. And, it sucks because, even their offensive line is banged up this year. Can you imagine? We were talking about it last night. Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay had the potential to be that boom and zoom combo like a lot of these teams are now getting. But it's hard to have a boom and zoom combo when your line can't really help you because the starters are injured. And also, you have wide receivers in Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler and Tim Patrick. Yes, they're great, but, you can't get in a rhythm when your quarterback has to run for his life every single play. It sucks. And that defense is just atrocious because they don't have their playmakers. Hats off to Justin Simmons for, being able to stay healthy and play an absolute incredible season. Justin Simmons deserves that Pro Bowl nomination. But this team could have been so much more.
Yeah.
They could have been so much more. And I said it. I called it. They were one of my predictions. They were going to be the 6th or 7th seed. That's what I said. It just Damn, man. Such a disappointment for this team. And I'll say it early. If this team is able to come into next season healthy with all these players back, I'm going to move my prediction to next year because they have the talent. They have the probability. They have the capability of just being a top team. So, huge disappointment on these Denver Broncos.
You know what would be really interesting to watch next year?
What?
Vic Fangio gets fired.
Okay.
They need a new head coach. They see this guy 2 times a year. He's been getting a lot of praise to be a next great head coach in the NFL, but has never been given the opportunity. Well, you see this offense twice a year, and you see the talent that you can get in Denver with their offense. Why not bring over Eric Bieniemy?
Oh my God!
Go
Eric
against
Bieniemy?
Kansas City Chiefs twice a year. Andy Reid versus Eric. You got stud wide receivers. You got a good running game. You see with Drew Lock, and you have a good defense that's coming back with injuries.
Look, that is a very good option. And, to keep this short so we can go on to your first disappointment, I'll say it like this. Travis Kelce, elite tight end. Number one for sure. But no offense, a bad man.
Oh, he's good.
When he stays healthy, he's a bad man. Now, those Chiefs, they have a good receiving core. However, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, hey, Sammy Watkins has his moments, but who is the real number one receiver over there? It's Tyreek Hill. And they had so much success with Tyreek Hill, with Sammy Watkins that's on and off, with Cole Hardman that's just a speedster. Can you imagine if you have 3 solid wide receivers? This could work. You got a good boom and zoom combination. This could work. Eric Bieniemy could come into Denver and just bring out the best of these players. I guess is the best way that I wanted to say it.
You could easily get a top 5 offense.
Easily. Now, to end off my point, and to go to your first disappointment, because I said it all off season. It all depends on Drew Lock's play.
Yeah.
All I'm gonna say. This year, he's had his moments, he's had his bad moments, but with a full stacked roster, healthy roster, I want to see what he can do. So, disappointing this year. Hopefully, a revival this year. Hopefully.
Or you could just trade for Zach or for Dak.
No, stop it. Stop.
I mean, I'd become a Broncos fan.
I probably would too. I probably would too, to be honest.
Look, I gave it all season, and since they're out of the playoffs, let's just rip off the Band-Aid. Let's just open the wound.
Okay.
Because I told you so. I told everybody. And this has been a staple on this podcast for many years.
We're going to combine? I'm feeling we're going to combine.
I wouldn't doubt it, because there's one quote from this man at the beginning of the season that really just embodies his whole career and my perception on this guy. Quote unquote, they ain't ever seen this Cam.
Oh, we're not combining. Okay, you got me on that one.
Cam Newton is an okay quarterback.
Uh-huh.
That's all he is. That's all he's ever been. That's all he ever was, ever will be. We watched all the Instagram videos. We watched all the clips of his workouts, and we watched him talk about how this is a brand new Cam Newton, and that thanks Carolina, but also screw you for letting me go. You ain't never seen this Cam. Oh, he's got New England. He's got Josh McDaniels. He can make it work with Bill Belichick. This team is going to be okay. He is an okay quarterback, and that's all he ever will be. I told you that there is never getting back to that 2015 MVP Cam. He peaked in 2015. He has been injury plagued, and he's a bad leader. He's a bad decision maker, and he just doesn't play the quarterback position at the high level. Look, I compared the stats from 2015 to 2020. He has a better completion percentage than he did in 2015. Good job. You finally got it to what the average should be in the NFL. He had 35 touchdowns in 2015. He had 5 passing touchdowns this season. He never threw the ball. And when he did, he would throw a 100-mile-per-hour fastball to a guy that's literally 5 yards away from him. He makes good throws, and then he makes those bad throws. He's always made those, and it's always what he's going to do. Nothing changed. So this is my point. He has not changed at all. Lesser passer rating than what he did in 2015. Pretty self-explanatory because he didn't have 35 touchdowns. He has 800 less yards than he did in his second worst season as far as passing yards, which was 3,100 passing yards in 2014. He has like 2,300 this year. He has 11 rushing touchdowns. Great, because that's the only thing you could do with this offense. It was very one-dimensional because, yes, you can make the argument that they didn't have the offensive weapons. Well, I think Jacoby Myers played really well in that second half of the season. And Damiere Byrd really came together. He was a deep threat. But it's the same old offense that the New England Patriots have been doing, which is through the rushing attack and through the running backs coming out of the backfield by catching balls. They continue that, and they won games because of it, and they lost games because it's very one-dimensional, but it's the Patriots. They just execute it really well. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Look, Cam Newton's going to be the quarterback probably next year for the New England Patriots. I think so. I think that's fine. But from what we expected Cam Newton to be, or not me, but everyone else, including Cam himself, talking all that smack of like, oh, everybody's going to regret letting me go and keeping them out of my mind. It's like, no, you're just the same old Cam Newton. You matured a little bit because you stopped talking when it came down to actually winning games. And when you lost games, you were like, it's on me, and we got to win more. But your play on the field is the exact same it's been since 2015, and that's okay. Cam's not an elite quarterback, and everyone who said that he was doesn't know football because they're watching him throw inaccurate passes that are 5 yards down the field, and he makes that one great pass, but it's not going to win you games. Yeah. He's average.
Yeah. All I'm going to say to end your point is just I was very excited for him the first 3 weeks of the season because it looked like he finally started turning that point where, okay, he realized his mistakes. He's now playing good football. Finally, right? But no. I was excited. I was, to a certain extent, kind of hyping up, yeah, man, finally, go do you, go be back, go back to that 2015 Cam. But no. So, yeah, that Cam one hurts. But let me tell you something else. Cam being Cam hurts, but I'll tell you what. Rest in peace to the San Francisco 49ers.
I'm going to disagree with you on this one.
Okay, hold on. Because I'm talking about a specific topic. I don't think I've ever seen a team have 25 players go on IR/reserve list at one moment in time. I can't believe that. I can't. Am I saying that if Jimmy G was back, they'd be a playoff contender? Maybe. Would they be a scary playoff? No. We know what they did to go to the Super Bowl in the playoffs last year. We know. But let me tell you one thing. I'd rather have Jimmy G than Nick Mullins.
Fair point.
I'd rather have Raheem Mostert than Jermichael Hasty.
Fair point.
Raheem Mostert's a baller. I'd rather have Brandon Ayuk Debo Samuel, George Kittle. I'd rather have all of those on the offense. Now, they started coming back and, like they started getting better, but then they went straight back to the injured list. I just don't understand how unlucky you could be as a team. And that's just the offense, right? You go back and you lose Nick Bosa, dude. Nick Bosa was an absolute monster last season, and you lose him. You lose, I think you lose Jimmy Ward as well. Jimmy Ward for a long time this season. You lose Jimmy Ward. You lose Solomon Thomas, another stud on your defensive line. My point in how disappointing this team is because how unlucky they've been. Like I said in the previous point, do I think that if they had all these players back, would they be a playoff contender? Maybe.
It would have been hard in that division, but imagine all four of those teams trying to get to the playoffs going against each other. That would have been really fun to watch.
Highest possible potential they could play in because they have all these players, Do I think they would have won the division? No, because I think Seattle and LA are still heading for that title. But my point is that how disappointing is it to come off of a Super Bowl run last year to just absolutely getting demolished by injuries? And dude, let's be real. Let's be real on this. If the 49ers had their initial team, come on. You really think they would have lost to the Eagles? Really?
Or to the Cowboys.
They would have lost to the Eagles? Or to the Cowboys? Really? Come on, dude. It sucks. It sucks really bad. It's so disappointing to see. You can make an argument for the opposite side, and I'm sure you have that argument. But in general, on the topic of the possibility, the capability that this team had to at least make a run back into the playoffs, possibly, it sucks to see, and it's very disappointing that they set an NFL record for most players on IR at one point of the season. Damn, man. Well, that sucks.
The reason why I'm not disappointed about it is because even with all those players out, there was a lot of games where I felt the 49ers played really well. They made the best out of the situation. And yes, their record doesn't speak for that, but as long as your players that are healthy, that are on the field, play hard, that's all you could ask for. And that's what you really see out of a good football team is how many of these guys are actually still willing to give it all on Sunday. Are they willing to give their body up for the win, even though things aren't going their way? And Kyle Shanahan's really good at bringing those players together. I think they've built a great culture from the front office down to even the reserves on that team. So I'm not worried about this team at all. And I'm not really disappointed because there's nothing you can really do about the injuries. And even when you got Raheem Mostert back or Jimmy Garoppolo back, they still continue to get injured. I think it's just 2020 summed up in the Bay Area. But it's just am I disappointed? No. I didn't think they were going to make it back to the Super Bowl. I didn't think they would make the NFC Championship, but I did think they were a playoff team. And I'm more disappointed at the fact that they missed out on a great divisional battle with the NFC West. Other than that, it's kind of all right, they'll be back next year. And maybe they switch up the quarterback position to somebody else other than Jimmy G. And we'll see what happens. But I think for now, it's I think this might actually work out in their favor.
But to wrap up my point, can you sit there and say that if they had their full team from last year, it would have been a better season by far?
Oh, absolutely.
That's all I was trying to say. It's disappointing to see a team that had a bright future ahead of them just get demolished by something that they can't control, and it sucks. So that's why I think it's so disappointing. But
yeah, I'm thinking more long term. It's
long term that's different. I get your point. I can see them coming back next year and putting up a fight, but at least for this year, it's disappointing to see.
Yeah. Well, this team's not going to be any better next year. Since the Bucks you mentioned earlier, they were actually one of my disappointments, and I mean, there's not really much else I could say about the Bucks. So this is my last disappointment of the season. Is Detroit Lions are just a bad organization.
Yeah.
Even a team in Washington that has no name and literally went through every crisis imaginable before the season even started, and their head coach had cancer, and they're still a better football team than you right now. It's just ridiculous how much, like, I think now that Cleveland is winning games, like, now we just go to, like, Detroit and say, what is wrong with you? Like Jets, who cares about? Jets are always just going to be bad. Jacksonville had their moments a few years ago, so at least they had some success, right? They made it to the AFC Championship. They made the playoffs. They won their division.
Yeah.
Detroit, what the fuck are you doing?
I mean, congratulations for finally firing Matt Patricia and your GM, but that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Where does that put you? You have no head coach and you have no GM. Now, if they do sign Louis Riddick as their new GM, I actually do like that move a lot. I do like Riddick a lot on ESPN. He's on Monday Night Football. Such a smart guy. I feel like he would be really good in Detroit. But I don't think that's going to happen. So, right now, a team that has not won a single playoff game since 1991, has not won this division since 1993, and has nothing to offer, really, other than maybe a rising tight end.
TJ Hawkinson's a baller. He is.
TJ's doing really well. I'm looking at this team, I'm saying, Matthew Stafford's probably going to play his last season with the Detroit Lions. I think it's just time. Yeah. Like, we've had 11 years of Matthew Stafford. I've seen enough. I've seen it enough for many years. And he just can't stay healthy. The dude has an injury every week. And for many years, it was like they don't have a running game. Well, now they have a running game with DeAndre Swift and then whoever they bring in next year. If they keep Kerryon Johnson, I don't think Adrian Peterson's going to stay there another year.
No.
Kenny Golladay can't stay healthy, even though he's really good. Marvin Jones, how long does he have in the league? He's pretty old, but he's still really good. I just don't know. Danny Amendola has done nothing since he's gone there. Their defense, I'm looking at these guys, I'm like, look, if this was like 4 years ago, I would have been like, this defense looks amazing. Like Desmond Trufant, Jamie Collins, like, oh, they just got Jeff Okuda. It's like, well, right now, you're giving up like over 40 points on a regular basis. And then on Thanksgiving, you literally got embarrassed by the Houston Texans, who are also not a good football team at this point. So what do you have to offer to this league other than showing up on Thanksgiving Day and having to play a game?
Yeah.
You're 5-9 right now. I'm actually surprised they've won 5 games. They should have won another one in week 1, but DeAndre Swift dropped that ball against the Chicago Bears. And I'm looking at the future. I'm saying like a disappointment, because I actually had some good hopes and development with Matt Patricia in that offense that should be really good, and that defense that should have been better with more additional players. And now we're back to square one, and we're at a worse standpoint than we were a year ago. And I don't think it gets any better for the next 5 to 10 years.
I think it's time to eventually, or at least maybe in the next coming seasons, just clean house. Clean house and start over, man, because you just can't. Nothing there is working / has worked. So why the hell are you going to just try to fix it? Just clean house, start fresh. At least if you clean house and start fresh and you still aren't good, okay, well, at least you tried something. At least, at the bare minimum. But
it feels like we're just like in 2014, 2015 again with the Detroit Lions. Like all these players that have tremendous potential, like we're wasting careers here. We're wasting a Megatron. We're wasting a Ndamukong Suh.
We're wasting Matthew Stafford. Been wasting Matthew Stafford.
Oh my God, ever since he got there. Like he just puts up the stats, but it doesn't mean anything. So like the Detroit Lions have been stale. And a lot of these other teams, speaking for a Cowboys fan, like we know exactly how that feels. But I don't think it's to the level what the Detroit Lions are, because at least with the Dallas Cowboys, we can see a future that's somewhat bright. I'm not saying Super Bowls. I'm saying like, let's just get a consistent season going.
Yeah, for sure.
The Lions, I don't see them winning more than like 8 games for the next like 3 years. And in that division, it's going to be even harder because everybody else is getting better, and you're just kind of being left behind.
Yeah.
You're the weird kid at that table.
These Lions. Yeah, I agree with you. I think if anything, you could say that the Lions have been a disappointment, not a 2020 disappointment. So,
Yeah.
I guess to wrap up this episode, I'll leave you with this. We don't like talking about the Cowboys on this podcast due to bias, but I have to bring this one in because this one makes me very, very sad. And I was talking about it last night with some of my friends. Can you imagine if Dak never got hurt this season? Think about it. We had this conversation recently. Okay, would we still be like would we have been an amazing team? No, because our defense is garbage. But I mean it in this way. If Dak never would have gotten hurt, let me say this: I have immense respect for Justin Jefferson. But I think CD would have been better. I think
better than Justin Jefferson?
Stat-wise.
I disagree.
Really?
Yeah,
you think Kirk Cousins is better than Dak Prescott?
No. I just think that, like...
The system fits him better?
I feel like with Dak, there would have been games where Amari Cooper goes for 150 yards, where Michael Gallup goes for 150 yards. Then there's the games where CD goes for 150 yards. Every game, Justin Jefferson's getting 150 yards. But for, like, CD Lamb wouldn't get 150 yards every game.
But CD Lamb was the leading receiver while Dak was there. You got to remember that.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be to the same level as Justin Jefferson, though.
I have to somewhat disagree with that. Because I guess we'll both agree to disagree because we have a different point. But in general, not just talking about CD Lamb, I think CD Lamb would have had an absolute breakout rookie year. And just not him. Dude. How many games this year have we seen this stat line? Amari Cooper, 3 receptions, 12 yards. Amari Cooper, 2 receptions, 10 yards. Amari Cooper, 5 receptions, 20 yards. Come on, dude. Come on.
I don't know about
I'm
that.
I'm not saying
I feel like that stigma of Amari Cooper not showing up on the road was debunked this season, and I feel like he's been way more consistent even in the losses. Let me look up his stats.
Come on, dude. We both know if Dak was still there, Amari would have had way more volume. I'm not saying every single game he would have 10, 15 catches. But come on. 2 receptions, 10 yards. 3 receptions, 12 yards. Come on. You have to at least agree with me on that.
Well, so Philadelphia, that terrible game on Sunday night, he had 1 reception for 5 yards.
He was hurt, though. He was hurt.
Yeah, Amari Cooper's always hurt. Yeah.
Not this season. Hold on now. Not this season.
He's been better, but I mean, if you're saying that he's injured in that game, isn't that the entire season last year?
What do you mean? Amari Cooper had a pretty good beginning half of the season. Once he got hurt, it all just went downhill. 100%.
I don't agree with that.
Other
than the San Francisco game with 2 receptions, 10 yards, he's had 51, 43, 112, 81, 67, 80, 79. The Giants game, 23, but that was just because they threw in Andy Dalton, and then every other game was really good.
I don't know. I still think that this season would have been better if Dak was still there for all 3 receivers.
Well, of course it would be.
For Michael, for Amari, for CD. I'm talking. Look,
you had fucking Ben DiNucci throwing to the Philadelphia Eagles.
That stat at the beginning of the season that people were saying were like, oh, all 3 receivers would have had 1,000 yards. No, I don't think so.
I was always like, that'd be cool, but let's be realistic.
Yeah, let's be realistic here. However, could we see, like 1,900, 750? Maybe. Could we have seen, maybe like 1,100, 800, 750? Maybe. But, instead we're seeing what? 900, 742. Michael Gallup, like what, 650 or something like that?
Well, they just don't know how to use Michael Gallup. They think a screen to the outside is just going to set him up for a touchdown. I'm like, you're going to get a yard. And they just keep doing that. My
main point with this whole entire soliloquy, I guess you could say. I got something in my eye, Jesus Christ. My main point with this whole entire argument is just, it is very disappointing to see that these Cowboys receivers were set for a breakout year, and it just got cut short because rest in peace, Dak Prescott. So, that's my point.
But we have Andy Dalton.
We have Andy Dalton throwing for 10 yards to Amari Cooper. We have Andy Dalton.
Fucking Dalton.
We have Andy Dalton throwing 1-yard screens to Michael Gallup. Oh, sorry, he had a touchdown. What was that for? 1 yard?
Yeah. Like Andy Dalton's just such a hot and cold quarterback. He'll throw dimes in one drive, and then another he just throws like to the cheerleaders on the sideline. I'm like, what are you doing? He's missing wide open guys, and then the next play he just throws it in the perfect spot. And I'm like, you're just average. Like you're just so up and down, and like I just need you at this. I just need you at this. Not this. Just this. I don't know if that saves the Cowboy season. I really don't care.
No. We both agree that it would have not saved the Cowboy season because our defense is just so bad.
Yeah, I'm looking at those games. I'm like, look, they would have scored more, but I don't think they would have given up less.
Yeah, no. Like that Cardinals game where we lost 38-10.
Oh, no, they're definitely losing that Cardinals game even with Dak.
We're still losing that game because it would have been 38-35, 38-31,
yeah,
something like that, I'm just saying that, it sucks to see that all three, Cooper, CD, especially CD, because, there was this hype around him, number 17 overall pick, absolute stud from Oklahoma. He was set to break out. He was going to an offense that literally catered to his every whim. We had Michael Gallup coming off a career 1,100-yard season. We had Amari Cooper coming off another 1,000-yard great season. This season was it for all three of these receivers. Our offense was going to be prolific. But no.
See, I'm disappointed in you because you had the expectation that they were actually going to do something this year.
Our offense?
Just the Cowboys.
Oh, no. I said the offense. Don't get me twisted here.
Well,
I said the offense.
Excuse me, sir. According to the stats, they're actually a top 15 defense or a top 15 offense.
Well, yeah, because Dak Prescott had like what was it? Someone finally passed Dak Prescott in passing yards.
Dude, I was thinking about that and I forgot who it was.
I think it was like so he got injured.
Sam Darnold. It was Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold. Okay. He got injured week 4, and someone barely passed him in passing yards in week 7 or 8.
Sam Darnold. Well, you mean week 15?
Oh no, I was talking about like.
Well, there was a lot of quarterbacks that didn't pass Dak in passing yards in like week 8, 9, and 10. Like Baker, Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson actually went quite far. I think it was like week 12. And then just like 2 days ago, Sam Darnold had just passed Dak for the amount of passing yards.
Yeah. So it's ridiculous. But oh well.
Just numb.
What's the famous saying here? I'm numb.
Just numb.
Just numb.
Doesn't.
That's what it is.
Doesn't you know what? Dak, you want to go to Chicago? You want to go to San Francisco? You want to go to Denver? I'll be right behind you.
Please stay, Dak. I love you.
No, they don't deserve him.
Well, no, they don't. But shut up.
God, there's talks about Andy Dalton get a 3-year extension to being the starting quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys because they don't want to pay Dak $40 million. Suck my ass, Jerry.
Yeah. Hold on, tell me who's your top 5 quarterbacks right now, dead or alive, huh? And how much do you care about a ring if the best player got carried by the team?